Hey guys, so I have an update on the Proline ban stuff that's going on here in the state of Ohio that I have been making people aware about, and it's been making its rounds, making its way around the pyro communities on Facebook, Reddit, and other places. If you haven't heard by now, the state of Ohio is attempting to ban Proline fireworks and article pyrotechnic fireworks. The original wording on this ruling was that it was going to reclassify these Proline professional use article pyrotechnic devices from 1.4 into 1.3, and the Ohio Fire Code can't do this. The only way that this kind of thing can be done is if the DOT and the ATF decide that they want to make those changes, and I highly doubt that will ever happen. But to get you guys up to speed, today was the public hearing for this, and I was in attendance. There were a few of us there. American Wholesale Fireworks was there. Sabrina was there representing the National Fireworks Association. There was one other older gentleman who was there that spoke. I spoke, and then there were a couple other people after me that had spoke, and they were from like display companies and things like that, and dealt with different stuff with the entertainment industry here in Ohio. But my understanding is that the portion that was going to take the 1.4 and turn it into 1.3, that part has been removed. As of right now, there is now a revised version of that that's being proposed. I can tell you that the remaining portion would still require licensing and permitting in order to buy these products. And if anyone here knows anything about permitting, you only get that permit about 15 to 21 days roughly before the event. So that means in order to actually buy this product and then be able to use it, you only have about 15 to 21 days before you can actually even buy that product and have it in your possession before you go to use it. So that would make things very difficult, especially for the entertainment industry and the display industry. And this would make it next to impossible for the average backyard shooter who's been trained and fits the definition of a professional. It makes it extremely difficult for them, because then they're going to have to go out and get licensing and do all the training for that, and basically be a 1.3 shooter at that point. But I gave testimony today, oral testimony. I had basically said, that this is a product that has been around, and this is something that, compared to consumer, it's basically just the electronic firing version of consumer fireworks to a degree. I had stressed that a lot of the products are actually the same product as a consumer. There's just very little differences, and the example I used was bulk shells. I had mentioned that the only difference in the packaging was that the consumer version comes with mortar tubes and more packaging for that to be able to have that with it, whereas the bulk shells do not. And so it's just the shells themselves, so the packaging is much less. I even noted that I've had bulk shells that I've purchased that had the consumer labeling underneath of the professional use labeling, because it's literally the same product. It's just relabeled for something else and repackaged differently. Some other things that I had mentioned was that it is unsafe for us to go back to having to use consumer product for electrical firing, because you have to basically dismantle these products and modify them, and that goes against state and federal regulations to do that technically in order to e-fire them. And so these Proline products, that solves that problem for us. Another thing I had mentioned is that individuals who may have criminal backgrounds would not be able to get these licenses and permits and things like that, because state law would bar it. And I think that's something that we need to get away from, that I had mentioned. I suggested that individuals who can take a training class and pass it and show that they understand what they're doing, that's to me, shows that they actually understand what they're doing and what they're handling, what they have, versus just a background check, which doesn't really tell you anything at all whatsoever about a person's ability to use these products safely. And so that's kind of some of the things I had said and whatnot. Roberto Sorgai from American Wholesale was there. He spoke quite a bit, and he was very upset at the fact that this was basically slipped in last minute and no one was informed about it. It was basically put in right before the busy season of fireworks, and basically no one was informed, and it affects their business greatly because they're the only company in the state of Ohio that sells the Proline product, and they're also the only company in the state of Ohio that puts on any kind of training program for the public. Now, granted, it's to become a 1.3 shooter, but you can still use those same safety practices on your consumer backyard shoot sites, using consumer and using Proline. And so that was something that he had stressed, that these other stores, they're not doing that. They don't care. And their big thing is safety. And that's kind of an idea I had that I've been trying to propose to the legislature down at the State House, was requiring all of these retail and wholesalers in the state of Ohio to put on at least once a year a safety training class for the general public. That could be APA, PGI, or have their own in-house training that they create that would be approved by the Ohio Fire Marshal. And if they don't do this, then they would be fined or even potentially lose their license for it. So I think we need to push for that and push for safety just in general for fireworks and proper training, because a lot of people don't really know how to safely use fireworks. It was also mentioned that the real problem is the overloads and the 1.3 shells getting onto the streets. I'm not a fan of overloads myself. I know other people shoot them. Good for you. That's your thing. But there's not really anything being addressed about that in any of this, and it's never been something that the state of Ohio has really ever taken action against. And I know, again, there's people on here that like that kind of stuff, but for me personally, coming from a safety standpoint, I don't agree with it. And it's not me saying, I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm just saying, be careful out there if you are doing those things. But Sabrina Nichols also spoke. She spoke on behalf of herself and the NFA in their written statement that they wanted. And then there's a couple others, like I said, that were also there. But I think it's really important now that we have at least half of this proposal taken out, that I'm hoping that enough written testimony was submitted, and our testimony orally today is enough to convince the JCAR, the JCARR committee, to make these changes and remove it, or the other suggestion was, let's take it out, create a proper committee for this of industry individuals who would be affected by it or sell these products in and around Ohio, and let's put together something that can actually be used, and actually put some parameters around things is what qualifies an individual. My biggest thing, if you can take a safety training class per what PGI and what federal law says, then you're deemed a professional. And so I think that's what we need to push. But right now, I would say the best thing anybody could do, since the comment period for sending written testimony is now closed. It closed at 5 p.m. today on October 7th. My suggestion for you is to, one, share this video, get it out, but two, I'm going to put a link down in the description, and I've already stressed this before in another video, but contact the members. There's 10 members of the JCARR committee that they will be looking over this on October 28th and making any changes and then eventually voting on it. But email them, express your concerns. We want to keep this going, so please share this in all the pyro communities you can, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, everything. Let's get this out there. Let's contact those members and just say, hey, I might have missed the deadline or whatever or whatnot, or I wasn't able to orally, give testimony, but here's my thoughts on this. Here's why you need to ban this, or here's why you need to remove this from the proposal. So Like I said, I'll put that information and the links to that so you can contact the appropriate people for that, and whatnot. I do also understand, it's been hinted at that if this does pass and it's not removed, legal action more than likely will take place against the state of Ohio because of it. It'll hurt a lot of people. It'll hurt a lot of the industry. It hurts a lot of display companies, family companies, people who use these products. And so I think it's important that we really push to get this removed. I have someone that had written testimony today, or submitted testimony, and I heard their name come up today when it was announced. Someone that I know that lives close by that I've talked to before about fireworks and have met and whatnot. But just a few things they had mentioned. One of the key points this is obviously there's conflict with federal standards, regulations. That's obviously now been removed, so that's good. The economic and logistical harms of this, it puts a lot of problems on individuals because we can't have even 1.3 personal storage in the state of Ohio. And so that's something that would affect them as well. And like I said, he also mentioned, smaller businesses, smaller fireworks display companies would be greatly affected. One of the other things he mentioned was procedural concerns and just how people weren't informed about this. And so that's something that really needs to be addressed. And then obviously he mentions here at the bottom that people are already buying fireworks for 2026 for the 250th birthday of the United States. And so what happens with their product, and what's going to happen with that? And that's something that I also had a question about, is if we have this product like I do, what's going to happen if they pass this? Are they going to force us to turn it in? Are they going to force us to shoot it off? Are they going to come raid our houses for it? So that's another concern that needs to be addressed and included in emails to the JCARR, the JCAR committee. So that's just kind of what he had. But I want people to take this serious. Like I said, share this, contact those members on the board of JCAR, and hopefully we can get this thing squashed and we won't have to take it to a lawsuit against the state of Ohio.